Hello and welcome to the Christian Fantasy and Sci-Fi Podcast, where we talk about anything and everything fantasy and science fiction. Your host is Matt Crosswhite, and the subject matter expert is Josiah Marshall. And here we go.
Welcome to another episode of
Christian Fantasy and Sci-Fi Podcast.
Well, kids, good to have you on the episode. Glad you could come on and be our guest hosts. Are you having a good day today?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, good. You guys enjoy reading, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Why ask such a silly question, right? Now, Joel, you're really into fantasy and science fiction. Karlie, you like fantasy? Yeah. Well, that's good. Well, we're going to talk about my top 3 miniseries. Okay. Now, Karlie, you asked a question, very good question earlier. What was that question? So
what is a miniseries?
Well, that's a great question, Karlie. A miniseries is a story told over a specific amount of episodes. Now, those episodes can vary in length, okay? But it's usually fixed to anywhere from 2 to I've seen as many as 18 episodes to tell a miniseries, meaning that they're not continuing the story after they finish the story. They're going to just, this is the story, this is all we're going to tell, that's it. Whereas with a TV show, they keep going until either they run out of material or the show runs its course. Okay. So that's a miniseries. Joel, do you have any questions?
What is your number one?
What is my number one miniseries? Well, Joel, I've been giving this a great deal of thought, and I have to admit it's not very easy, but I'm going to have to say, Dune.
Dune. Oh,
Dune. Yep.
Dune is a nice book. I've watched the first movie, so yeah.
Yep. And Karlie, you were saying something. What was that? Were you asking a question?
I just asked what's Dune.
What's Dune? That's a good question. Dune is a very famous series written by a guy named Frank Herbert. Okay, and he's got 3 primary. Especially when you think of the story Dune, you've got 3 books that he wrote that really makes up the story Dune. That's not to say that there's even more books. And then after he passed away, his son continued to write, and so there's even more books. There's a lot of Dune books out there. I don't even know the exact number. As I said, I don't know the exact number. The last number of books that I knew about was about 12. So I don't know where they're sitting at now. They could have much more than that. I just don't know. But the cool thing was, that is a lot, isn't it? Yes. But the cool thing, though, is that the Science Fiction Channel, also often known as the Sci-Fi Channel, they actually got a trademark right, or movie right, rather, so that they could go in and produce a mini-series of it. Now, a mini-series, of course, lets you experience more of a story than you would get in, say, a 3-hour movie, right?
Right.
So if you were to sit down and watch a mini-series of, say, Minecraft, and that mini-series was 5 episodes at an hour and a half apiece, you get roughly 7 hours. So it's really cool to be able to come across a story that you get to watch in a mini-series. Now, for me, Dune is a large book, right? It's very, very thick. But yes, it's very thick. And Joel knows all about thick books, don't you, buddy? You've recently finished some Harry Potter books, right?
Yeah, the 4th, 5th, and 6th.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So for the Dune miniseries, which was actually a 3-part episode, so it was 3 parts, meaning that each episode, there were 3. It was 3 episodes. Good grief! So the miniseries Dune was broken into 3 episodes, And I don't exactly know how long each episode is, but I do know that it comes out to about 4 hours and 25 minutes of Dune. Now, let me ask you guys, would you rather only be able to watch maybe an hour and a half and it be all of your story and only bits and pieces, or would you rather watch as much as 4 hours and get more of your story in smaller chunks?
4 hours.
4 hours?
I'm gonna have
What
to go
about
with
you,
Carly. 4 hours.
4 hours, yeah. And so that's the advantage of miniseries. Miniseries gives you a way of being able to delve more into a story that you like and be able to enjoy more of it over an extended period of time. But that extended period of time is fixed, okay? So, for example, Dune has 3 episodes, right? So you know that you're going to watch 3 episodes, but that it's going to end and there's not going to be any additional story added on that wasn't originally in the book. So Dune is one of my favorites. It's got some concepts in there that's really quite fascinating. You've got a blend of some very Western practices with Eastern philosophy, if not theology, depending on how you look at it. And so as a result, you get this odd little blend hybrid that gives you an opportunity to see of what type of life could be if we saw these two philosophies, these two cultural practices come together. And then you've got some really fascinating characters that I just enjoy watching. But really, one of the things I liked about the series especially was that it wasn't filled with a lot of effects. You saw people in suits. You saw people in makeup. You saw animatronics, which is something, Joel, you're very much into, is animatronics. And you even
Is
saw
it like
Karlie.
a clown?
No, it's not like a clown, but you do see a lot like in say another miniseries that I know of. I know the name of it. I mean, I do. I'm seeing the picture in my head. It was a Jim Henson. It was a Jim Henson series. I'll probably remember it after we're done. But they had some puppets, and they had what looked like stuffed animals that had some ways of moving as well. And so they did the exact same thing, Karlie, in this movie. They even have a little mouse, a cute little mouse, with a little nose that moves back and forth and little ears that wag. And that's actually where the main character gets his new name from, because the mouse is called Moadib. And so that's where he gets his new tribal name from. So anyways, there's just a really fun way of being able to watch these movies without it having all of this over-the-top stuff. Kind of takes me back to a very nostalgic era of movie and TV making.
Hey, Dad.
So anyone else have a question?
Oh, I do actually have a question.
Okay.
What does Madav mean?
Moadib?
Yeah, Moadib.
Moadib, I don't know what it means. I do know that they made it clear in the movie what it means, but I don't remember what it means. But it was the name of a little desert mouse in Dune, on Dune.
Okay. Dad, what's your number 2?
All right. Well, Karlie, glad you asked. I have one other one, and it is called Earthsea. Now, Earthsea, it was only a 2-episode miniseries, which made it around a total of an hour and a half. But still, now, the funny thing is about some of my interests don't always mesh up with the rest of the world. So what I find interesting, a lot of people have found subpar or not that good. I actually enjoyed the series just simply because, it wasn't trying to be over the top, where you see a lot in these new miniseries where the effects are so in your face and the pacing is just fast and just ready to kind of punch in you, really, and just making you feel bruised and beat up after you've watched the whole thing. I remember Joel and I had that conversation one time, and I know Karlie and I have had that same conversation, where you feel like the tone and the pacing of the movie is just too much. You guys remember that?
Yeah. Oh yeah, when I went to the Spider-Man movie with Mom, she and me thought the movie was a little too fast and colorful.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So for me, that's why I kind of like some of these older ones, because they're slower paced. They're not so in your face, and they allow you to just sit back and really enjoy them a bit more. Now, when it comes to Earthsea is actually based off of a novel by Ursula Le Guin. And Ursula wrote this story about this young boy who finds out he's got magic powers. Does that sound familiar to either of you? A boy that finds he's got magical powers. Well, who's it mind you of, Joel?
Reminds me of actually two people, actually. It reminds me of the first one, Harry Potter.
Okay, Harry Potter.
And the second, actually, Luke Skywalker.
Okay, yep, you could say that. Absolutely. Karlie, do you have somebody who you can think of out of a story that has a boy that suddenly finds out he has magical powers?
No, but I can think of one with dogs who find out they have magical powers.
All right, well, that's fair. That works. But
that works, yeah.
That was funny. So, anyways, Ged is his name, G-E-D, Ged. He finds out he's got powers, and so he's actually sent off to a school. Anyone? Does this continue to remind anyone of something?
Harry Potter.
Yeah, Harry Potter. Yes.
Yeah. It's kind of funny. Now, something to note, though. Somebody go, Joel. You have a question?
Yeah, I do. It actually reminds me of one more person.
Who's that?
It reminds me of I forgot this boy's name, but he is from an audio drama called Your Story Hour. The audio book is called Sir Finnegan, and it's a boy that literally learns that he has magical powers and goes to a school far away because his dad doesn't want anyone to think that his son is unusual.
Oh, okay. Yeah, then we see. So it's interesting how even in these stories we see some similarities, right? So, Karlie, what do you have? What are your thoughts? What's your thought?
I was gonna say it also reminds me of Inkheart, except with no school.
Except with no school. I agree. I completely agree. But yeah, these people suddenly becoming aware of, ooh, I've got a magical ability. I've got magical talent. So the story was originally published under the name of A Wizard of Earthsea by Ursula Le Guin, Ursula K. Le Guin, technically, but it was printed back in 1968. Okay. But the miniseries, it was a long time ago. The miniseries came about in 2004 through 2005. That's something I didn't actually do with the other one, but with this one, it was only 2 episodes for a grand total of 1 hour and 30 minutes. So this miniseries is on the short side.
45 minutes each.
Roughly.
45 minutes each.
Yep, 45 minutes. Yep, Joel, I can see your disappointed look. Like, really? That's it?
That's it.
That's it.
And it takes 2 years. 2 years to make an hour podcast. My word.
Yep. So
just make this one.
What, Karlie?
It's not making 2 years. It's not taking 2 years to make this one.
No, it's not.
No,
but that would be my number 2, again, just simply because of the tone, the pacing, the overall presentation, and just it's a story that I've enjoyed throughout my life. So that would be my number 2. Now for my final series, I'm actually going to make it not just a single. Now this is funny. Now the way you can look at it in 2 ways. All right. This next series can either be said in either its entire series name or by individual books. Okay.
Wait, Dad, I think I know what this series is.
Okay, Joel wants to take a guess. What's my number 3?
Well, since the clues you just gave me, I feel like it is the series of Narnia written by C.S. Lewis.
Okay, Karlie, do you have anything? Do you have a guess of what my 3rd one is? No? Okay. All right. So my 3rd one is BBC's Narnia miniseries. Yay, Joel.
No.
So here's the really cool thing, though. Here's the really cool thing that BBC did. Rather than doing one movie, They took a story, as I've explained before, and they broke it up into these tiny episodes so that they could have an easier way of basically approaching the story and getting more of the story in. Right, Karlie?
Mhm.
Right. So as a result, now here's an interesting little tidbit. I actually said in a previous episode that
Which one?
Netflix is the first production company to own all the film rights to all the books. Okay, because for a very long time, the film rights were actually split up in two halves, two groups, and sold off to different people. So when BBC picked up a bundle of these film rights, all they got was, excuse me, they got The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. They got Prince Caspian, Voyage of the Dawn Treader, and The Silver Chair. They only got the first 4 books. Okay.
No wonder that they only made 4 movies.
Exactly, son. That was the reason they only made 4 of those books. You're absolutely right. Now, how many episodes?
There's more than 4 books. You're supposed to say 4 movies.
It's a mini series. So depending on how you say it, you can either say that there's 4 miniseries, but since it's a continuation, and the way they actually designed the miniseries is that the story would blend into the next book. Isn't that pretty cool? So, as a result, I'm going to give you guys a question. Here's a quiz question. Here we go. You ready? How many episodes did they make for this miniseries?
Oh.
Okay, Karlie has 4. Okay, Joel, how many episodes for this miniseries?
Do you mean each? Do you mean like each
for
episode?
The whole
like
thing? Nope. I mean for the whole thing, from the start of Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe all the way to the end of The Silver Chair. How many episodes did it take for them to be able to tell that story all the way across through all of those 4 books?
My best guess. Let's see here. 16.
Okay, that's a sizable number. Karlie, did you want to make another guess, or are you still comfortable with 4? 4? 18 episodes.
I was so close.
18 episodes. Each episode was roughly 25 to 30 minutes each, for a grand total of around 505 minutes of Narnia. Isn't that pretty cool?
Wait.
Your mouths are dropped open. It's just so wild, isn't it? But that would be my top 3. It would be Dune, Earthsea, and The Chronicles of Narnia. Those are my top 3 miniseries of science fiction and fantasy in those 2 categories, okay? But here's the cool thing.
Yeah.
There are actually many types of miniseries out there. And there's quite a lot of them, depending on how much you really want to jump into it. There's even stuff that was done. Joel, you and I actually saw some. It was a River World. That was the start of a miniseries that ended up not being completed.
Yeah.
It was River World. They also made another one that involved what was that? Westworld, which was another older story you guys have heard of. Yep. They also did one on Battlestar Galactica. They did one Battlestar Galactica. Yep. And so there's a lot of them out there, and there's a lot of people who have many different interests. But there is one. There's actually, as I said, there's one more that I thought that deserved an honorable mention, and that was Neverwhere. Now, here's a really cool thing I actually talked about in a previous episode, kids, was that Neverwhere is one of those interesting stories that was written for radio before it was written into a book. Isn't that cool?
Wow, that's interesting.
I've actually seen movies that were written from the movie into the book.
There are some like that. There might be some like that. I wouldn't be surprised. Now, I do know, I think if I remember correctly, especially when it comes to Star Wars, Joel, it was originally written for a movie screen, and then it got turned into a book. So, and because you're the Star Wars buff. But when it came to Neverwhere, which was produced also by BBC, just like Chronicles of Narnia, this one was a total of 6 episodes. Each episode was 30 minutes long. You've got a total of 3 hours worth of Neverwhere. Okay. So 3 hours would basically be one of the extended editions of the Lord of the Rings or the Hobbit movies. So yeah, the Neverwhere is a very fascinating story, telling about a man who, Richard Mayhew, by the way, who ends up running across a young lady who's in need, and he takes her up to his apartment, and his fiance who was with him told him leave her. She didn't like the fact that her fiance was helping this young lady, so she left him and went on to this place where they were going to go on a date, I believe. And he went inside, helped her. She got better, but when she got better, she realized you've put yourself in significant danger because you helped me. And then he ended up in what's called the London Underground. Okay, and in the London Underground,
I know what that is.
Okay, what is the London Underground, Karlie?
A train station.
Very good. In our reality, yes, London Underground is usually referred to as a lot of subways and train stations. You're absolutely right. But in this story, the Neil Gaiman, who's the author of it, had the idea that there were these cracks in time, and that different places throughout time fell through those cracks into the London Underground. And so you had different people and from different places and from different times all being able to bridge between each other and go into each other's areas and just do. They had a really wild setup, a very convoluted and complex society down there that had everything from Roman legions to British dukes. So it was really quite wild. Joel, you seem to be getting very excited over this.
Oh, wow. British dukes? Roman legions? The Romans were destroyed back in like 10 AD. And
and there was even African warriors. One was a lady. I can't remember what her name is off the top of my head, but she was a very well-trained warrior who was legendary in being able to kill beasts of legend, as it was called in the story. So that was going to be my honorary mention. Huh, Karlie?
It kind of sounds like Black Widow, but without the beasts.
Yes, exactly.
It sounds like the woman from Lord of the Rings, the Return of the King, where she killed that.
Where she killed Sauron? Or Sauron, I mean? Sauron?
No, the black.
No, you're right, where she killed the Witch King. I'm sorry, you're right. Yeah. Yep. So there it is. My number 1 is Dune. My number 2 is Earthsea. My number 3 is The Chronicles of Narnia, with my honorable mention of Neverwhere. So, well, folks, we thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you.
Wait, Dad. Wait. What are you going to do for your next podcast?
Oh, that's a great question. Normally, I think about it a few days before I have the episode, but I'm open to some suggestions if somebody would like to give me a suggestion for my next episode. Audio dramas. Okay. Maybe my top 3 audio dramas from each of the science fiction and fantasy?
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds like a great episode for our next time. So next time, folks, you can anticipate hearing my top 3 list of my favorite fantasy audio dramas. Until then, we thank you for tuning in today. We look forward to Matt returning, and we're sorry to hear that he's sick right now. But I've enjoyed having my guest co-hosts, Joel and Karlie. And until next time, keep reading, keep enjoying. We'll talk to you then.